Hi, Paul here. I'd like to talk about mixing sessions that are incredibly huge with a huge track count. Track counts that exceed 100, 200, 250 tracks, sometimes 300 tracks. I'm getting sessions to mix with that many tracks in it. And it's just far too many tracks to creatively manage and to end up in a timely manner something that sounds amazing. So here's what I do. I use the actual source tracks as a multi-track tape machine, and I will send those source tracks to destination auxiliary tracks to reduce the amount of tracks that I am dealing with. So let's say I have a session that is 250 tracks. What I will do is I will say take 60 tracks of background vocals that were never combined by the producer or engineer. I'll take all those tracks and send them to one or two or three aux faders. That way I'm only dealing with a very few amount of faders, 3 stereo faders versus 60 individual audio faders. And I will do that across different tracks to achieve different things. Like sometimes orchestras will have 40 or 50 tracks on them. I don't want to manage that much stuff. It's not that I can't manage it. It's that by it taking up so much attention to individually look at all those faders, ride those faders, EQ those faders individually, and do all this work to control and ride dynamics into those faders, it's just too much to deal with. I'm going to end up doing a much better mix, way faster, if it's far fewer faders. Also, what it does for me is it stops me from looking at waveforms. I'm not interested in looking at a waveform. I am interested in just completely sitting back and hearing the forest, not zooming in on each individual tree. I want to listen to the forest. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to look at a screen even. On my Pro Tools session, what I do is I have a screen shot of a completely black photo. So anytime during the mix and I just want to shut off all the noise visually that I see on a screen, I will just flip over to that and I just see black. I don't look at the LEDs dancing around. I don't look at all of the waveforms and all the different colors that I have going on. I'm just listening. I'll also turn sideways or I'll have the screen to the side so that I'm not constantly looking at the screen, because for me, the best decisions are made when I'm not looking at a screen. Even when I'm EQing a vocal or EQing certain things, I'll close my eyes. If visually there's just too much stuff going on, I will close my eyes and I will just feel. It's all about feeling a mix into awesomeness. I don't look at a screen when I'm mixing. Only when I'm doing the basic work and stuff. But if I really want to know what's going on, I'll play a song from start to finish and I will just sit back and I will listen. There's no visual stuff going on, because even if I'm aware of not doing any moves in a screen, I don't want to EQ anything while I'm listening, just to have it in the background of a screen lighting up in front of me while I'm listening, subconsciously that is distracting me and it's slowing me down, and to a certain point it's confusing. So the less confusion I have and the less visual stimulus that I have while I'm mixing, I can get to the finish line faster. And it's important to get to the finish line fast, because the sooner I get to the end of a mix, I should say, and it's completed, or the faster I move, the more opportunity I have to have the perceivability and the perception to know whether something is right or wrong. Because as you listen to a mix, as time goes on, you become just accustomed to what you're hearing. You become used to the balances. You become used to the sound. Same thing if something catches my ear and it's a little bit off. I will address that right at that moment, and I will just attack it and EQ or ride or fix whatever it is that is annoying me or grabbing my ear in a bad way. There are other advantages. It has to do with CPU. Let's say that I'm dealing with a live drum kit and I'm going to be going through the phase. Of course, I could use a phase button. I can do it visually, looking at the waveforms in that case. But for me, I'm finding that using a plugin, these days I'm using something called Auto Align. It's really a time saver and gets the job done quickly and efficiently. All this stuff, though, takes CPU power. So if I'm dealing with 15 tracks of a multi-mic'd, multi-channel drum kit, I can get all that stuff going, and once I get the phase happening and it's sounding focused, the bottom end is rich and full and has impact, now I can put all those faders to sleep. I make them inactive, and there's zero drain on the CPU power of a computer. It could be other things. It could be vocals. It could be whatever. All these CPU thirsty plugins that I might use to help me get to what I want to hear take a lot of power, so why not just use it and get it off the computer CPU quickly? Another reason to do this is that when I'm dealing with sounds that maybe need some help, I like to break a sound up into different sections of the sound. So let's say a guitar, there's the subsonic woof of a heavy guitar. Let's say there's a mid-range thing that I may want to control somehow or to poke through, possibly with expansion, upward expansion, or I can use something like on a McDSB AE600, it has a inverted threshold, so it won't react when a sound pushes into a threshold. Maybe it'll react to everything that's underneath that threshold. So when the threshold is hit, it'll do nothing, but anything that drops, let's say a bass guitar, there's some stuff where some notes are missing, I'll use the inverted threshold to do that. I can do the same thing with the inverted side of things with something like a Sonox dynamic equalizer. It has that feature as well as a cool thing which it will do overall averaging analysis of whatever you're shooting at, but it also has the instance, I think it's called offset, or the initial impact of a song. So on a vocal, let's say things are kind of snappy and bitey, but I don't want it to overall read the averaging of a wave. I can use that, but all that stuff is very CPU heavy, or can be, and I get that out of the way. So by using the multiple things, when I'm sending a source track to, let's say it's the guitar example, I'm sending it to not only one, but I'm sending it to 2 or 3, and each one of those can be doing a different thing. One's compression, one is doing the inverted expansive dynamic equalization, maybe one is I've got a de-esser to tame the top end on things, but I don't want to do it on one aux fader. So the easy way to mult that is I can just duplicate that aux fader, have it look at the same input, and I'm not doing as if I would have had if I would have been working on the track that was the actual source track. Now I'd be having to double and triple all that CPU usage, so that helps a lot. Another reason to do it is that I use parallel compression a lot. So when I'm sending the aux to one fader, if I want to use a parallel chain and I don't want to use a send, I can just duplicate that aux fader, and now I can do something completely different, because I don't just use parallel processing that's just a normal duplicate with some compression on it. Sometimes the magic of parallel processing is putting a different equalization on it and have that react in a different way and blending that in. So it's so easy. Duplicate the aux fader, put whatever processing you need, and it's awesome. You're there, and it didn't cause a lot of CPU power and processing or complication. So the main takeaway with this, though, is just like on a film stage when they have the dubbing stage where they'll take 1,500 tracks of insects or sound effects and airplanes flying over and explosions, and they want to get that to a more manageable thing. I use this technique for every track I mix, even on a 24-track mix, even on a a song that'll have 48 or 50 tracks. I want it down to 32 or 48 tracks because then I can sit back and I can really, really immerse myself in the music because we're balance engineers. That's what we were called. Mixing engineers is the common term now. We're mixing engineers. But back in the day, we were called balance engineers because that's what we did. We balanced sounds. And that's how you really can make things happen. That's how you can make fast decisions. That's how you can really see the big picture instead of honing in on little components. Because a lot of times you'll just go into this mode where you're just, if you focus too long on something, it starts to sound right to you, or you get used to it and it sounds cool. And you'll decide to leave a mix up overnight and you'll come back the next day and you'll listen. And sometimes you'll go, what the heck was I thinking? What I was focusing on doesn't even matter. So get through a mix quickly. And while you're getting through a mix quickly, it also allows me to, throughout a mix, if I'm working on a mix for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and it sounds cool, but it's just not doing that thing. I'm not in the zone and there's no wow factor yet. I just pull all the faders down. I'll take a 15-minute break. I'll go do something else. I'll walk outside. I'll come back sometimes after an hour, just so it's like a whole new day because you've forgotten about everything you were doing. You come back in, you push up the faders, and in 15 minutes, in 20 minutes, you'll have a mix that is so much stronger than your last mix. And I don't do it by memory. Wherever the mix is, I print that mix. Then I pull down the faders because I don't want to assume something was better. I don't want to think, oh yeah, this is better, because you can get fooled. It's easy to kind of fool yourself when you're dealing with stuff sonically. So I totally print the mix, and I'll print 2 or 3 or 4 mixes throughout the process of a mix. Even if I don't pull down the faders, I will just continually leave a reference mix there and keep it there so that I can just for grins, I'll just go back and I'll flick right to that other mix, it bam, 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 back and forth and go, yeah. Or I'll say, everything is amazing now, it's so much better, but the bass was better in the old mix. What is it that I had going on? What did I do? Is it a balancing? Is it an EQ thing? So when you have less faders to deal with, you can move fast. It's a more joyous experience, and you can get it to the finish line really fast and really creatively and make fast decisions. Don't dwell in anything. Go with your gut instincts and move fast. So that's why I decided to get a session with 300 tracks in it down to 48 faders, because it's so much more fun. It's so much more fast. And the creative outcome I get from that is far superior than if I manage all these tracks individually. So hope there was something there to help you. And thanks for being here. And we'll talk soon. Thanks.